Okay, hello ESL 42 class. Once again, I'm going to do a review of our last test. This is also reading test. This is for chapters 5 and 6, that's relationships 1 and 2. Before I get started with this review of the test, which I will be returning during individual conferences, so you don't have this to look at, obviously, I understand that. But I'll leave this up so that you can review it later, but also you can think back to the test and probably recognize some of your questions. At any rate, I'm going to and posting this review now just to kind of get a little bit ahead. I could probably wait to do this until after our conferences, but you guys did very well on this test. I was very impressed with the work that most of you did on this. Very few problems, but just to make sure that all of your questions are answered, I want to quickly go over this test so that you might have some of your questions answered. On the first page, again, great job. There was a couple of mistakes here on the first ones, so I want to quickly review these. Again, this is page 1 of our reading test, chapter 5 and 6, the midterm reading that we just finished. So here we have this statement: Abraham Lincoln grew a beard only after being elected to the presidency. Then we have to read further and we can see that after is the only right answer. An 11-year-old girl told him that with a beard he would look a great deal better, for your face is so thin. So he could only grow the beard, in this case he only wanted to grow the beard after the girl told him that. So this word after is the only logical one. The next one, until, is a tricky word. I understand that in English. It means up to a point in time. For example, during our class, we usually work until 6 o'clock, excuse me, something like that. Up to. So until means up to. All right, so here we have this sentence. Tina's father is an overly cautious parent. He wants to know where she is every minute, and he won't let her drive his car until she is 20. So here, they have to wait up to the time when she is 20 before she's allowed to drive. The rest of these, I believe everyone got correct. Congratulations. All right. Here is page 2 of the test. And you can probably see this on the video, but of course you want one, another, during, and third. And then here, the main pattern of organization is signaled as a list of items. Don't be fooled by this during, because that's only one part of the other list, okay? So remember here, we're looking at 3 common sit-up errors. Okay, so there's our list words. 3 common errors. One, another, third. So during is not one of the major supporting details. During is just telling you that this is happening in the midst of the exercise that they're talking about, in this case, sit-ups. So don't be fooled by that. The main pattern of organization isn't time because of during, but it's list because one, another, and a third. Again, list because it doesn't matter the order. These are just mistakes that people make. They could make this mistake, then that mistake, then that mistake. It doesn't have to be in any particular order. Therefore, it's list. And we see one, another, and third. These are also list words, so we'll have to be aware of those. Okay, for the next portion of the test, this was page 3. Again, great job on this. The only ones I think some of you had trouble with were the first 2 here. So some of you got these reversed. And again, as I said before, sometimes you have to read these quietly out loud to make sure that you've got them correctly ordered. So if we look at this, what we want here is, look at number 1. It says, plants can be surprisingly destructive. So then it says, invading plants, for example, that means an example of their destructiveness, right? Can relatively quickly turn an abandoned factory site into a field and then into woodland. So they're saying the plants are strong enough and destructive enough that they can destroy something very quickly in the wild, because it just overwhelms the cities, especially, they say, in tropical areas. So this needs to be an example of surprisingly destructive. If you put however there, that would mean the opposite, right? That would mean plants aren't destructive. But in fact, it is an example of why they are. So here, this sentence is an example of that sentence, so for example must be there. Here, we're looking for contrast, because it says today, beach towns are popular tourist resorts where people enjoy going and playing. But then we say a couple of hundred years ago, the seacoast was a place of danger, not fun and resorts, but a place of danger. So these are two opposites. That one has to be however. Again, the rest of these questions on this page you did very well with. Okay, it's barely fitting on my screen here, but this is the last page of the reading test that you just took. Here we have definition. I guess you have to see those at the top there. Okay, so A is definition and example. And then, again, something I mentioned in class before the test. You all did very well on this, but I'm just pointing out. Artificial intelligence is, all right, so we see that we're getting a definition here. And then we have a for instance, again that means for example. So we have definition, example, correct answer A. All right, on 7, we have in the main idea, the high cost of college today causes problems for many students. There's your main idea. All right, so cause and effect. High cost, it causes what? A lot of problems with getting scholarships and loans, and they have a lot of debt. So high cost of college causes problems. C, correct answer. Next one, we're talking about B. This is comparison and contrast. And this one does not have any contrast words. Now, I know that we practice looking for words like however or similarly when we talk about comparison and contrast. But here's one of those examples that I mentioned to you before the test where you just have to think about what you're reading and ask yourself what's going on. Here, it's pretty clear. They start with back in 1800, and they describe how long it took, 56 hours, and how much they got in those days, back in the 1800s. 56 hours, only 15 bushels. But then they have today. So we're having a contrast between back then and today, and now it's quite different. They used to spend 56 hours, now it's only 2.8 hours. They used to get 15 bushels, now they get over double, 31.4 bushels. So we have to think on this one and say, oh, they're comparing this time to this time. Correct answer B. In this case, contrast. And I'll move this up a little bit for you. Okay, so at the bottom, again, we have a definition. Eidetic memory is, and they give you a definition, and then they give you, for example. You did most very well. Definition, example. And then C, C is cause and effect. We have the transition results, and you'll remember that a cause usually results in something, so that's one of our transition words for cause-effect. But this paragraph here starts with the causes. Rangeland is overgrazed, and then what happens? Has more erosion, seeds cannot sprout. Okay, so there's all kinds of problems. So we have a cause, and we have some bad effects signaled by results in. All right, again, I'll remind you, very well done on that test. I'll be returning this for you to look at, and I'll leave this video up for the next week too so that you can go back over it. I'd like to save here with the videos as much class time as possible. Of course, mark any questions that you have, or you can ask me after class next time if you have any more questions about this particular test. Okay, so that's the end of this particular section.